They finally done it. It took over 1,000 days, but Detonation Focus Me were able to break one of the most infamous red carpet loss streaks in Valorant's history. According to Liquipedia, DFM's last win was April 17th, 2021. And with some quick maths by Google, that puts us at 1,088 days. Wow. Their last win was in a Japanese challenger circuit, meaning that they went their first year of partnerships without a win, and then some. I do want to mention that their DFM white team did get a win in June 4th, 2022, but I don't know if it's the same team or an academy version of them. Comment down below if you know what's the difference between these two. Regardless, we have to say bravo to these players and all the fans that stood by this Japanese team's side. And they didn't do it against a horrible opponent either, because T1 did place top 4 in Pacific's kickoff tournament. With this win though, it brings up a lot of questions for me. Like, how far can DFM actually go now? Who is the new worst team in VCT? And how big is the gap between Tier 1 and Tier 2 really? I'll try my best to answer all these questions in today's video. The reason why I bring up the question of Tier 1 and Tier 2 skill gap is because this version of Detonation Focus Me is Japanese old Crazy Raccoon team, a Tier 2 org that couldn't even beat other competitions from their island and make it to the Ascension tournament. To be fair, Scars did come in second place to a Bleed team in the grand finals, but still, this version of Crazy Raccoons couldn't get out of the Japanese circuit last year, but now have beaten T1, which has some pretty good Tier 1 talent. Of course, hard work played a part, but I can only imagine the countless hours they must have put in to finally taste this victory, because at the end of the day, they look pretty good in this match.
See, they're not dying like in dumb ways. See, they heard that. They have to know it's the Jet. Look at that. Cypher just walks away, doesn't take the fight.
T1 immediately trying to react for more space.
That's it. Okay, I was gonna say.
Very good. 5 attack rounds, and they genuinely played well. This is a good team. I'm telling you right now, that was one of the better halves I've seen on attack side of Ascent. I think the only team that plays it maybe better than that on attack side is NRG. Hashtag Glaze.
This kind of shows that Crazy Raccoon may have been the better choice for a partnership in a competitive sense. They definitely had the popularity box check, but Detonation Focus Me was still chosen. DFM's first year in partnerships, we saw them sport a diverse roster with both Korean and Japanese talent. Looking back, I guess you can say there may have been some language and communication issues, as well as the fact that they fielded an active 6-man roster. Despite this, DFM showed promise in some of their off-season matches, but they still struggled in Sao Paulo, disappointing a lot of their local fans back in Japan. Some even suggest recruiting players from other Japanese teams, and thus this started DFM's path of anticipation and skepticism in Valorant. Those aspects grew more in the regular season, where they went down to the likes of RRQ, Team Secret, and DRX. Despite facing global esports and Talon, DFM couldn't redeem themselves either, and ultimately failed to qualify for the next stage. We saw a similar story in LCQ too. This explains why these players, as well as a lot of VCT enjoyers, celebrated this victory so emotionally. There was even some turmoil among the players before this match even started.
これ内部な情報になっちゃうんですけど、
はい
ちょっとメンバー間で結構大喧嘩して、
はい
まあ一時はどうなるかと思ったんですけど、もうスクリームも相手にも申し訳ないんですけどキャンセルさせてもらうぐらいちょっと喧嘩が起きて、まあでもそれがなんだろう、さらにこのチームの絆を深める事件になったんで、今日はたくさんみんなでコミュニケーション取れて、
Luckily, this argument helped foster better communication among the players for that match against T1. However, I don't think communication is the only reason why the former Crazy Raccoon team looked even better. Hard work is needed to make such a jump. I think when comparing T1 and T2, the difference in aim and having insane reaction time is there, but I believe the gap isn't as wide as we may think. Contrasting the best of the best in T1 and the best of the best in Tier 2, you will see a massive difference, but the middle of the pack may be closer in my opinion. Yes, there are people like Demon 1, Charon, Narrate, and Kong Kong who you can watch and just see their head clicking ability is better than your average Tier 1 player. I believe teams like DFM got better because of this thing I and many others call iron sharpening iron, where people improve by simply playing better competition. It's quite common for tier 2 teams in the Americas to scrim against the likes of EG, Sentinels, NRG, and so on. And out of all the second division leagues, my gut and my eyes are telling me that Americas has the best. Yes, EMEA and Pacific teams do at times scrim against tier 2, but at least from what I've seen from Scrimbucks, the Americas does it a lot more. Of course, the Americas League has a lot of former players who participated in T1 in the past, which helps too. But even then, those players are able to sharpen their skills because of their time there at the top before competing in tier 2. And one of the reasons why these players are getting better and better. The best aimers of yesteryears aren't the best today, and possibly not the future either. I'm not only talking about their shooting mechanics either, but the critical thinking aspect of this game too. Every loss can either break a team or give them the opportunity to learn from themselves and improve. And we know that DFM has a lot of that losing experience. Strategies, tactics, and mid-round calling are proving to be more and more important in this tactical FPS. And I know, right? No duh. However, tens and many players have mentioned that Valorant today is different than it was in 2021, which you just can't expect someone to solo carry a team to lift trophies. We've seen this with DFM, who showed pretty solid executes in their game against T1. So a combination of better communication, hard work, and playing the best of the best all contributed to DFM not only getting their first win, but doing it in an impressive style too. However, the question now is, who's the new worst team in Valorant and can possibly rival DFM's Red Carpet, the teams who will most likely get the minimum number of 12 games this season? For Americas, I think the resounding answer may be Furia, which sucks because they have a pretty solid team of shooters. MW0 can go toe-to-toe with the best jets in the world. Havoc was once seen as Brazil's next star, and their new pickup in Nazweer is proving to be great too. However, there are a handful of things that could be holding them back. I mentioned this all the way back in my Tech Pause video, when Furia lost to NRG. Their game plan was simple to read and counter. They briefly had a lead against NRG, but putting this wall on A site round after round after round made it easy for NRG to counter it. They didn't really have a good plan B. I do like that they are experimenting with different comps now, but I can see 12 games being all they get in total this year. Just like EG. Yes, they made it to the playoffs during the kickoff tournament, but they only played 2 games since they were in Group C and had a bye. It hurts me to say this because I like Jogamo, Potter, and an underdog story a lot. However, where tactics may be the issue for Furia, firepower may be what's holding EG back. I'ma still watch their games hoping that they prove me wrong though. For China, I have to say it's kinda surprising, mainly because I would have never thought that we might not see JD Gaming at the international stage, let alone them possibly not making it to China's playoffs during Split 1. They came close to beating EDG, but close isn't good enough. Same with their match loss against Nova Esports, which was a team many thought would be China's worst at one point. Regardless, JD Gaming now have gone winless in Split 1. I still think the talent that JD Gaming has is enough for them to avoid being labeled as the worst team in VCT. They just need to get a couple of wins to prove themselves. However, there is a team that's even worse. Tai Lu. And you know me, I always say when it comes to predicting a team's outcome for the rest of their games, it's not if they win or lose, but how they win and lose. And boy oh boy, Tai Lu has been getting their butts seriously kicked. Blowouts on top of blowouts. 6-13 twice to Bilibili, 5-13 to EG, and 4-13 to Trace Esports. This is a bit worrisome if you're a fan of this team. Luckily for them, recently beat Nova Esports, meaning that they snapped their 7-game losing streak for 2024. However, they could still be China's worst team. And now we have EMEA, who at the beginning of this season, and even after kickoffs, a lot of people said that Koi and BBL were in a tier of their own, and for the wrong reasons. I think now we can say that BBL has had a major bounce back by winning a few games here and there. Of course, one of which was against a Team Heretics, who I want to mention did beat Fnatic, but you can tell are struggling a little bit, but nonetheless they are still winning these games. Koi on the other hand are struggling a little bit. Luckily for them, they were able to get a win against Team Liquid in kickoff, so they're avoiding the 12-game minimum matches. However, they're still not looking that good, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go winless for the rest of the season. But with BBL gone from this tier, I think we might have to look at Giant X, who are one of the few teams that made a change and actually look worse because of it. At first, it was a lot of cope because they were in Group A, which turned out to be the group of death, but now they're still getting blown out by really good teams. I think their only hope is if they go against other bottom feeders, and if they struggle against other bottom feeder teams. Of course, I think Giant X does have the ability to play well and maybe squeak a game here and there, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they go winless. I do want to mention that Gentlemates may claim the title of 12 game minimum as well. It's unfortunate, really. They were in Group C with Fnatic and Team Vitality, and then got placed in Group Omega, which is harder than Group Alpha in my opinion. Good luck trying to beat out Na'Vi, Heretics, and Foot Esports in Split 1. And then in Split 2, you have to face these heavy hitters as well. And at this point, Team Heretics should be at full power, so even if Gentlemates did look okay, moving into the playoffs of EMEA wouldn't be guaranteed. But hey, if you want to be the best, you gotta beat the best. Lastly, we have Pacific, and man oh man, if Bleed didn't beat DFM recently, then this section would have been dedicated to them only. However, they were able to get their first win in Tier 1 of VCT, snapping a 5-game losing streak and adding some green to Ye's red carpet. I think many of Bleed's struggles are due to their mental, which was holding them back. However, out of these 3 teams, I think DFM has the best shot to move on, since their remaining opponents are easier than Bleeds and GE, which can prove to be very important since that momentum could be carried on into the next performance and split. Of course, there's a chance that all 3 might not get into the playoffs either, and I would like to say that each of these teams have been looking better and better after each game that they play. Even if all 3 get grouped in Split 1, I wouldn't be surprised if these teams look a lot more impressive in Split 2. Overall, I have to say that it's nice to see players and fans celebrate a team's bounce back. The dread of going winless can make for some good memes and matchups that are dubbed as the Toilet Bowl. But deep down, those funny comments are usually just a deflection to avoid the harsh reality that a team might be the worst to ever do it. But still, I want to congratulate DFM again for breaking their losing streak, and hope that other teams can experience the joys of winning too. Let me know down below who you currently think is the worst team in VCT. Till next time, stay safe, and I'll be yapping in the next one.